All right, so get this. We're going to deep dive into AI that can like create art just from words.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you just give it a description and bam, out comes an image.
Huh.
It's this thing called text-to-image synthesis.
Okay.
And the research we have dives into a new method that's supposed to be like crazy fast, StyleGAN.
Yeah, it's really fascinating how this whole field has just exploded. Like
Right.
imagine being able to just instantly visualize uh, any concept, like anything you could imagine, any style, any
Oh,
combination.
for sure.
It's like unlocking this whole new level of creative potential.
Okay, so let's break this down. Why is the StyleGAN-T such a big deal? I know you mentioned that it's built differently than the big names in text-to-image AI, right?
Exactly, yeah. The current kind of like big players are diffusion models and autoregressive models,
Right.
and they tend to work kind of step by step.
Okay.
Like gradually refining the image until it like hits the mark.
Okay.
It's kind of like if you were painting a picture, stroke by stroke.
Yeah.
But StyleGAN-T takes this totally different approach, using something called generative adversarial networks,
Okay.
or GANs.
Jans.
And these GANs are designed to produce a complete image all at once, like in one go.
So it's like taking a Polaroid picture rather than like slowly developing a roll of film.
Exactly. And that's where StyleGAN-T gets its speed.
Gotcha. Okay, so speed equals more possibilities. But how much faster are we talking here? Is this just a cool demo, or is this something that could actually like change how we use this kind of AI?
Oh, no, this is definitely not just a demo.
Okay.
So think about things like um, designing a website in real time,
Right.
Where you could tweak images as you go just by typing in deceptions.
Wow.
Or, personalize ads that adapt to each person as they're browsing.
Right?
This speed could make that a reality.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Okay, so how did they make it so fast? The research paper mentions that StyleGAN-T is built on StyleGAN XL, but with some tweaks.
Right. So they took, a really solid foundation and then focused on making it work really well for text-to-image stuff specifically.
Okay.
And that meant designing it to handle these massive data sets, making sure it could create a huge variety of images,
Right.
and most importantly, making sure that that final image actually matches the text prompt.
Yeah, okay, so let's pop the hood a little bit. The magic starts with the generator, right?
Yeah, the generator is the part of the system that actually makes the image.
Okay.
And in StyleGAN-T, they actually went back to a slightly older design called StyleGAN-2 because it was just way more efficient for this particular task.
Gotcha.
They found that they could get rid of something called translational equivariance, which is, like making sure the image looks right no matter where objects are placed,
Okay.
which wasn't super critical for text-to-image stuff.
So they streamlined the design by focusing on, like, what really mattered?
Exactly.
Smart. But the paper also talks about something called residual convolutions. What are those?
Yeah, so think of it kind of like adding support beams to a skyscraper,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
These residual convolutions are like shortcuts in the network, and they help prevent errors from building up as the image is created.
Okay.
And this lets them create a much more complex network without it becoming unstable, which means higher quality pictures.
Ah, so it's like you're building a more sophisticated structure, but keeping it solid.
Yeah, exactly.
Makes sense. But how do they guarantee that the image matches the text? That it's not just creating something random?
Well, they did something really clever with the text embedding, which is how the AI understands the meaning of your words.
Okay.
So instead of routing the text through like a separate component, they found a way to connect it directly to the image creation process,
Interesting.
which makes it much more responsive to the text.
So they tighten the connection between the words and the visuals.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. But the generator is only half of the story, right? You also mentioned something called a discriminator.
Absolutely, yeah. The discriminator is like the quality control expert.
Okay.
So imagine an art critic who has studied tons and tons of real images.
Right.
The discriminator learns to spot those like subtle differences between real photos and AI-generated ones.
Okay.
And it's constantly challenging the generator to improve.
So it's like a constant back and forth, pushing the generator to become like a master forger.
Exactly.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, and in StyleGAN-T, they used a specific kind of discriminator called Dino VTS, which is known for being very fast and efficient.
Okay.
But what makes it special is that it's designed to understand the meaning, like the context of an image at a very high resolution.
So it's not just about whether the pixels look realistic, it's about whether the image, like, captures the essence of the prompt.
Exactly, and that's what allows the discriminator to give really targeted feedback to the generator.
Okay.
So it's pushing it to create images that are both, visually appealing and semantically accurate.
Got it. Okay. So we've got the generator, the artist, and the discriminator, the critic, kind of working together.
Yeah.
But how do they train this dynamic duo to actually work so well together?
That's where things get even more interesting, and that's what we'll talk about next.
All right. So we've got this system where the generator and discriminator are like battling it out, pushing each other to get better and better. But how do they even like teach this AI to understand the world, to connect words to images?
Well, one of the big things they use is something called CLIP guidance.
Okay.
And CLIP is this separate AI model that's already really good at understanding the relationship between images and text.
Right.
So you can almost think of it as a coach for the generator,
Okay.
constantly nudging it to create images that CLIP itself would recognize as matching that text prompt.
So they're using an AI that already gets it to like guide the training process?
Exactly.
That's really clever.
Yeah, they actually even went a step further and fine-tuned the CLIP text encoder, which is it's kind of like giving the coach like an even deeper understanding of language.
Gotcha.
And this makes the connection between the text prompt and that generated image even stronger.
It's like they're making sure the coach and the artist can like really communicate.
Exactly.
That's cool. But you mentioned this tension between variation and text alignment.
Yeah.
How do they make sure that the AI is creative and doesn't just spit out the same image every time someone types in, cat?
That's a great question, and it's one of the ongoing challenges in this field.
Right.
So you want the AI to be able to generate a wide range of images, but it also needs to, stay true to that prompt.
Right.
So one technique they use is called truncation.
Okay.
So imagine that the generator has, a certain amount of randomness, like a tendency to kind of explore different possibilities.
Okay.
Truncation is like reining in that randomness a little bit
Okay.
and focusing its attention on the areas where it produces the most convincing results.
So it's like giving the artist some freedom to play around, but also like keeping it on track.
Exactly. And they found that carefully adjusting this truncation level, allowed them to kind of hit that sweet spot between fidelity, how realistic the images look, and diversity, the range of outputs it can create.
Gotcha. Okay. So we've talked about how StyleGAN-T works, but I'm curious, how good are the results? Does it like actually live up to the hype?
Well, they ran it through, a bunch of tests,
Yeah.
and the results were really impressive. They used these standard benchmarks to compare StyleGAN-T to other state-of-the-art models.
Oh.
And it consistently came out on top, especially when generating images at those lower resolutions.
So it's a like champion sprinter?
Yeah.
Okay, but what about those higher resolution images, the ones that are
Yeah.
closer to what we see in photos?
That's where there's still some work to be done.
Okay.
So while StyleGAN-T did outperform other GAN models at those higher resolutions,
Right.
it still kind of lagged behind the leading diffusion models in that area.
So it's like winning the speed game, but still has to catch up on the detail stuff.
Exactly. But even at those higher resolutions, the images that it produced were, incredibly compelling.
Okay.
And one of the things that really stood out was its ability to generate images with a really high level of semantic accuracy, meaning they really captured the essence of that text prompt,
Sure.
even if some of the finer details weren't totally perfect.
It's like understanding the main idea of a story, even if you miss a couple words.
Exactly.
But beyond like these benchmarks and the technical stuff, what really stood out to me were those example pictures. They were like mind-blowing.
Yeah, the qualitative results are truly impressive.
Right.
They showed that the model could generate, all sorts of images from these like photorealistic landscapes to abstract art,
Yeah.
all just from text.
And it's not just about static pictures, right? They showed what StyleGAN-T could do with like animations and image manipulation.
Right. One of the really fascinating things is its ability to do these smooth interpolations between images.
Okay.
So you can give it two different pictures, say, a photo of forest and then a photo of a desert.
Right.
And it can seamlessly transition between them,
Wow.
creating this smooth animation.
That's crazy.
And remember that speed advantage we talked about? Well, it can do this interpolation way faster
Yeah.
than those diffusion models.
So it's like having a magic wand that can like blend different realities together.
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty awesome. What else can it do?
Well, they also demonstrated some amazing things with image manipulation.
Okay.
So, for example, they could take a picture of a car and just by changing that text prompt, transform it into a totally different style,
Hmm.
like a vintage hot rod or a futuristic flying car.
So it's like an AI-powered image editor that understands what you mean.
Exactly.
That's wild. It's like watching an artist interpret your ideas as you're speaking them. But with all this power and speed, it also makes you wonder, what are the implications of this? Like, where does it go from here?
That's a question worth exploring, and that's what we'll talk about next.
Okay, so StyleGAN-T, how it works, how powerful it is, it's fast, it's creative, and it can make some really amazing visuals.
Yeah.
But like, what does it all mean? Where does this tech go from here?
Well, it's really hard to say for sure,
Right.
but one thing is definitely certain. AI like this is going to have a huge impact on how we create and interact with visual content.
Yeah.
Like imagine everyone can just design anything they imagine,
Right.
regardless of their like artistic skills or whatever.
Yeah.
That's the kind of potential we're talking about.
It's pretty exciting and a little scary. Like,
Yeah.
what happens to, graphic designers and illustrators if anyone can just create professional looking images by typing a description?
I think it's less about replacing human creativity and more about like working with it, augmenting it.
Okay.
These AI tools can be like collaborators,
Mm-hmm.
helping us explore new ideas and push the boundaries of what's possible.
Right.
Like, think about how photographers use Photoshop.
Hmm.
It's a tool that makes their work better, not something that replaces them entirely.
That's a good point. Yeah, it's about using these tools to reach new levels of creativity, not getting rid of the human part.
Right.
But there's still limitations, right? This AI isn't perfect.
Oh, of course not.
Yeah.
One of the big limitations is that it still needs, tons of images and text to learn from.
Right.
So the quality of what it makes is only as good as what it's trained on. And there's
Hmm.
also that challenge of, making sure it's not just copying existing styles,
Yeah.
but can actually come up with really new and original stuff.
Right. So we still need that human spark, that ability to like see things in a new way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. And isn't there like a challenge to make these models more robust and reliable?
Yeah, for sure. Right now, they can still make mistakes or have, unexpected results,
Right.
especially when you give them like complex or vague instructions.
It's like talking to a person. Sometimes things get lost.
Yeah, exactly.
But the progress has been amazing. Like it seems like every few months there's another breakthrough.
It really is remarkable how fast this is all,
Yeah.
changing.
Yeah.
And with every advancement, we get closer to that vision where anyone can create anything visually.
So for our listeners who want to learn more, where should they start?
Well, definitely check out the StyleGAN-T paper itself. It's, it's a lot to take in, but it's got so many interesting ideas about how this technology works.
Yeah, and don't forget those example pictures.
Oh,
Worth
yeah.
1,000 words or whatever.
Exactly. And if you want to, like, really dive into GANs and all this text-to-image stuff,
Right.
there's tons of great resources online from, blog posts to tutorials to open source code.
Right. We'll link to some of that in the show notes.
Cool.
Any parting thoughts for our listeners as they go on their own deep dives?
I think the main thing to remember is to keep an open mind
Yeah.
and embrace all the possibilities. This is all, pretty early,
Right.
but it has the potential to, really change a lot of things about our lives. It's up to us to explore it and shape it for the better.
Well said. It's an exciting time, and I can't wait to see what people create with all this.
You too.
All right, thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. Until next time, keep exploring and keep learning.